Hi, I'm Christy, and this is Protégé. So this is Protégé's first Quinterview. What is a Quinterview?
What is a Quinterview?
It's a quick interview, a Quinterview. I like these things. It's kind of like Protégé, Crow and Protégé. So for our first Quinterview, what I wanted to do today was to talk about something that a lot of people might think about because of New Year's and New Year's resolutions. And that is, do you have a project that you want to do that's maybe a big project? It's not a one-time thing, and it might take a lot of steps. It might take all year for you to finish your project. And how in the heck are you going to do that? How are you going to stay on track? I personally have an issue with this. With writing, I can easily write a post. I love that. It just comes out of my head, and I sit down and write it. But I've been working on a book for 5 years, I think, and I'm nowhere close to finishing it. So I was having lunch today with my very good friend Michelle Paisley, who in the 5 years that I have not written my book has just kind of coughed out like 4 or 5 of them. So she's a published author. She has a new book coming out, and I thought I'd sit down with her and ask her, how the heck does she get her writing done? Because she writes full-length books. So I'm going to switch over and welcome Michelle.
Well, thank you. I am honored to be here.
I'm honored to have you.
And what a great idea, right? Quinterview?
Yeah, it's a short interview.
It works.
So how is it? Well, first tell us, for people who don't know you, what have you written so far?
In 2007, I wrote Yoga for a Broken Heart. That was my first nonfiction book. Then I switched to fiction with All in Her Head. That came out last year.
Awesome.
I recently wrote All Over It, which comes out tomorrow. Yay! And I've written a book called All She's Got, which I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. And I'm also writing a screenplay now called The Boob Job.
Nice. Michelle is super prolific.
I am super prolific. I can't help myself.
And Michelle and I were just talking too about how we have similar energy and we get really excited about doing what we're doing, but somehow she can do the long-term projects and I have a problem with it. So how is it that you sit down every day? Because you do. I know you do. You sit down every day and you write. And how do you do that?
You know, I think it just became a habit. It's kind of like exercise. If you don't do it consistently, it doesn't work. And I tried that with exercise and I just kept hurting myself. And I reached a time where I love books and I wanted to write a book. I was a journalist for a long time, so I was used to writing on deadline. So that helped. But I had never before tackled a big, huge project. And when I wrote the outline for nonfiction book and they actually accepted it, which I didn't expect it, then I was forced to actually write it and I had no choice. So I kind of backed myself in with that one, but it was a great experience. And once I think you start writing, it's just like exercising. It hurts really bad at first, but once you get into the flow of it, then you have a day where you don't do it and it feels really weird. So everyone does it differently. I had to sit down and figure out what time do I work best. I used to be a night owl. I'm not anymore. I need to work first thing in the morning, and I don't know what that's about, but it is. I had to create a day job where I could make income while I was going after my dream. And so I had to do something where my hours were flexible, so I created that, and I'm also a massage therapist. So I had to carve out the space. And then it's just, people always say they needed a desk and the right computer. That's all bullcrap in my point of view. I have a laptop and I write basically wherever I can. And sometimes it's 5 minutes and sometimes it's an hour. And I just make the goal that every morning I'm going to write something. And I try not to get distracted by Facebook. I do it too, but I do a little bit of Facebook, I check my email, and then I just get down to work. And usually it's, you know, again, I keep comparing it to exercise, but usually you don't want to go, and then once you're there, it feels good. It's the same with writing. I think once you start doing it, you just get into a flow, and it's fun, and you remember why you start doing it to begin with. I also am good about creating outlines, though. I'm a big outline freak. Not everyone is, and I totally go off my outlines all the time. But I give myself little writing assignments. So the day before, maybe I ended a chapter a certain way, I know where it's going to begin the next day. And so even when I'm not writing, I'm always thinking about it. So as I'm going about my day and I'm massaging people and I'm interacting with other people, I always get ideas. And so then I keep a little notebook and I write it down. And So you're always crafting it. Writing's just the actual sitting your butt in the chair and doing it. And when all is said and done, that's what you got to do.
Sit down,
'Cause,
do it.
When I do book signings, people always say, "Oh, I have these great ideas," and I always say ideas are like assholes. Everyone has one, but you have to just do it. And people put pressure on themselves that they need to make all this money and be famous. Do it because you love it. Don't do it for any of those reasons. If you become famous and people love it, great. If not, so what? It becomes a hobby. It's like, I always compare it to knitting. I suck at knitting. Other people do that to relax. I write.
So what about, because I think you're like me and you've got several writing projects going on at the same time, and what happens to me is I'll completely forget about one, and like I won't work on it for months and months. I'll completely forget about it. Does that happen to you, and how do you stay on track?
It does. Like, for instance, right now, I was in the middle of promoting Still All in Her Head, because that came out in July, so I was just at the tail end of doing all the book signings and stuff. When my sequel comes out, All Over It, that's an ebook. So it's a whole new world. I'm starting to do the Facebook and on my website and a lot of web-based interviews and those kind of things. And at the same time, I'm writing my screenplay, which sometimes I get a little lost because I get mixed up in the storyline. So I'm rereading All Over It, which I wrote a couple years ago, and now I'm writing this whole new idea. And it can be tough to go back and forth, but it also gets you in this zone of writing. So if I'm reading what I wrote, it kind of gets you in the mood of it. And I play tricks with myself. I mean, I read other books of the style I like to write. I read other writing books all the time. I'm reading a book right now on screenwriting called You Hack, and it's just screenwriting tips for other writers. So I always do that kind of stuff to inspire me and keep me going. But again, I have to, just like you would a job, I treat it like a job. That's became the difference for me, because in a job, you wouldn't just say, oh, I'm going to do a little bit today and maybe some next month. You'd be like, no, today I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to see it through to the end. And once you get, the hardest part is starting. Once you get the characters and it starts to become fun and you want to finish it. It's like reading a good book that you can't put down. When you're onto something, you want to keep writing it. It may take a few tries. I've written a lot of half books that sucked, and hopefully they'll never ever see the light of day. They're terrible, but it was practice. I don't regret that.
I'm going to come dig them out of your house.
No,
eventually.
I'd hopefully burn all of those, but I think that you need to have the discipline to see it through to the end. But then also, if it's not meant to be through to the end, sometimes you have to just start over. Because a good idea that's really solid, that you've thought through, will go the distance.
I remember Barbara Sher saying with reading a book, sometimes you get halfway through and you can never finish it. Like, you just keep reading the same part, and then maybe you're just done. And maybe with certain writing projects too, you're just done with them, and it doesn't mean you failed if you don't finish them.
Oh, absolutely. And I was down on myself because my books are novellas. They're shorter books. My last one was 161 pages. That's not a huge book. But that's how I write. I'm not real full of detail and historical data. That's just not my style. It's very quick paced, and that's why I'm really enjoying writing screenplays right now, because my books are very visual and there's a lot of talking and character development. But that's just me. I fought it for a long time, thinking I should be more prolific and write these big, thick, huge books, but that's just not me. I like writing novellas, so at some point, if it's 100 pages, who cares?
Yeah,
Then
you
it's
got to
great
do what
because
fits for you.
the story was done. It told itself in however many pages, and now I just keep writing those because the characters won't shut up, and I've written 3 of them now. I think we're done with those characters.
So tell me how anybody who's listening can find your books and find out more about you.
Sure. www.michellepaisley.com. If you go to my website, my wonderful fiance has set it up. You should be able to get all the links you need. I do a blog. You can get the first 2 books at your local bookseller. If you go to, I guess Borders is around, Barnes & Noble. You can go on Amazon.com. And the new book, All Over It, which comes out tomorrow, you can get on Amazon, and you'll be able to get it on Nook and all the e-readers. So,
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
MichellePaisley.com. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too.
Good
Thanks
luck
for
with
being
this.
our first Quinterview.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Ta-ta.